And I didn't. I said we are right there.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Right now, 10 o'clock, 10:01, excuse me. Wednesday, August 27th, here in the Mountain Lion Pier. Oh, it's not in there for me.
It's not.
The Downtown Connection Center. So with that said, I'd like to ask the clerk of the board to take roll call.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. City of Flagstaff, Lori Matthews. Here. Coconino County, Geronimo Vasquez.
Present.
City of Flagstaff, Miranda Sweet. Here. NAU, Josh Mayer.
Here.
CCC, Tony Williams.
Present.
Thank you. We also have NAU alternate board member John Hale. Zoom. With us, Jeff. Okay. We have we have our attorney Scott Holcomb and Cameron Stanley with us. And other guests, Brendan Morgan with TransPro. And Eddie Thomas with Insurica. And Mariah McNutt, I believe with TransPro. Mercer, I'm saying he's with Mercer. Mercer, sorry. Okay. Did I pronounce it right? And we have staff in the room and on Zoom. And I'll get back to Jeff. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Now, item number 3, if we could please have Sam Short provide the safety minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Today's safety minute is on emergency preparedness. So next month is National Emergency Preparedness Month. We all know living in northern Arizona, there can be an emergency arise at any time, whether it be forest fires, flood events, or other incidents. One of the best things that you can do to prepare for an emergency is to create a family emergency plan. This plan should have the following elements: a communication plan with designated emergency contacts and meeting places for your family. Your family should know the evacuation zones and routes. For example, do you have children that get home before you do? Do they know? And will they receive emergency alerts? Need to make sure that they do. A disaster supply kit with essentials like food, water, medications, and important documents, and considerations for any pets that you may have or family members with special needs. Also, the family emergency plan should also include practice drills and a way to receive emergency information, and also redundancy for receiving that information. These are only a few items to consider when preparing a family emergency plan. You can learn more online at ready.gov or FEMA.gov. Thank you and welcome to the August board.
Thank you. All right, next item, call on our CEO, Heather Donlin, to provide milestone anniversaries.
Good morning. Welcome to our August board meeting. And can I just recognize the milestone of we're all in the same room? It's fantastic. Thank you all for being here. So I have a couple milestone anniversaries to share with you. These are for the months of July and August, since we did not have a July meeting. So the first anniversary is Donovan Walker, celebrating 5 years here at Mountain Lion. Donovan actually started with us as a bus washer and detailer during COVID and promoted up to the driver position. Donovan's supervisor shared the following remark. Donovan is very quiet and reserved. Most days he prefers solitude. However, he is one of our most reliable drivers. His attendance is near perfect and his safety record is excellent. Mountain Lion is able to function because of a core group of operators that quietly come in every day, do their jobs with no drama, and maintain a professional attitude throughout the work. Donovan has become part of this group and a core member of our team. So I'm happy to celebrate Donovan's 5 years here at Mountain Lion. He was invited to attend, but I have a feeling he's actually driving a bus right now. The other three on the screen, Joel Kramer, Nicole Sam, and Monica Boyer are all celebrating their first anniversary as part of our operator team and really are successfully operating in our team as operators, and we're glad to have them here with us. So those are the milestone anniversaries that I have to share with you today. Before I step away, I'll just point out, if you do need access to the Wi-Fi, the Wi-Fi and passwords on the screen. Thanks, John, for reminding me. Of course.
With now our CDL,
Yes.
I need up here, is it getting easier to find drivers and fill those positions when they come available?
Yes, Sam's going to talk a little bit here later about the impact of the driver wage change, because that was another component to it. But it has made it better for us to be efficient with our training program, to have that course available. We graduated 8 people out of our last training class, and we have 13 in the current class. Some of them do have CDLs, but the majority of them are staff without CDLs. And then we need all the pieces to make sure we retain them. Yes, that CDL course is a game changer. Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up, item number 5, call to the public. Are there any members of the public present that wish to speak, or are there any written comments received by email for the board?
There are no members of the public in the room today to speak, nor were there any email comments submitted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. In that case, we'll continue on with our agenda. Item number 6, approval of minutes for June 18th, 2025. Are there any changes to the minutes that are recommended? Okay, if not, there are none, then may I have a motion to approve the minutes? Motion to approve. Okay, we have a motion by member Williams and a second by member Sweet. All those or is there any discussion? In that case, if there's no discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right. Next up, discussion item number 7, or action. Insurance policy excess limit requirements. And with that, I'll call up Mr. Sam Short to present the item.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair and members of the board. My name is Sam Short. I'm the workforce director for Mount Line. The next discussion or action item is staff is recommending that the board of directors approve lowering Mountain Line's insurance policy excess limit requirement from $21 million to $16 million for fiscal year 2026. So currently and in previous years, Mountain Line has maintained a $21 million excess liability policy. And it has been that way since I have been handling the insurance. Many years ago, there was a catastrophic event that occurred in northern Arizona, and it was thought prudent at the time that we needed to carry that much excess liability coverage. So currently, we maintain $6 million of excess liability through our regular insurance company called Travelers Insurance. We also have an extra policy that we maintain through Transit Re, which is for $5 million of additional excess liability. And we also, for the last 5 years that I'm aware of, we've had a policy with Great American Insurance for a $10 million excess liability policy. So every year, July 1st, these policies renew. When we start getting ready for the insurance renewal process in March, and on July 1st, these policies change to our up and coming new fiscal year. So this year, just before July 1st, we were notified by Great American that they were no longer going to offer us, or anyone else for that matter, a $10 million excess liability package. So because of their late notice, they did agree to extend our $10 million excess liability policy to September 1st. However, our broker has had to procure another policy and has been unable to procure a policy of $10 million or more. So for fiscal year 2026, we are currently looking at, after September 1st, to have our normal $6 million excess liability coverage through Travelers. Again, we will have our $5 million excess liability coverage through Transit Re. We will also have 2 additional policies from 2 other companies that we have not worked with before. One is Futuristic, and they're offering us a $2 million excess liability coverage, along with Palomar, who is offering us a $3 million excess liability coverage, for a total of $16 million. So for example, last fiscal year, Mountain Lion paid $68,500 for our $10 million coverage. This year, the best that we could obtain is the $2 million package and the $3 million package from Futuristic and Palomar. And both of those combined are going to cost Mountain Lion $176,000 and $176,319 for basically half the coverage that we've been able to obtain in previous years. We have reached out to our local partners, the city of Flagstaff, Coconino County, and Northern Arizona University, and they did review our request to lower our excess liability coverages, and they concurred with that request. At the moment, I'm going to turn it over to our broker from Insurica. His name is Eddie Thomas, and he's going to give you a little bit more information.
Hey guys, good morning. Am I coming through loud and clear? Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm Eddie Thomas with Insurica. I head up our public transit insurance group. We write transit agencies all over the U.S. I met Heather for the first time about 1.5 years ago, and we started going through what goes on at your agency and started talking about what I'm seeing at other agencies, and which leads us here today. Public transit insurance premiums are being driven up by a combination of legal, economic, and operational factors that just increase the cost. It's what we call a hard insurance market in the reinsurance layer. And what that means is decreased capacity in the reinsurance layer. So decreased capacity, what is that? So say you have a basket of $100 million. For 2023, we had a basket of $100 million for the reinsurance market. 2024, we had $100 million. In 2025, we have $100 million. And I'm using $100 million as an example. But by decreased market capacity, I mean that $100 million with inflation, costs of claims, costs of repairs gets consumed at a quicker pace, causing reinsurers to tighten up and either A, not offer renewal terms, or B, when the renewal terms are offered, it's at a substantially higher rate. Case in point, with Mountain Lion, Great American was for past years offered that 10 million excess layer that Sam talked about, but they're no longer in the game anywhere, and they're not the only ones. They cannot price the reinsurance layer at a price point where they are profitable. So that leads us to today. I also shared with Sam, we write a number of other agencies of similar urban footprint and size to you all. And the excess ranges we've seen, let me back up. The total liability range we see is anywhere from $5 million to $10 million. The cases I see that we'll call a nuclear judgment, and by nuclear, I mean a catastrophic, those will settle for whatever, in my experience, those settle for whatever the limit is. So if your insurance limit is $5 million, that's what the settlement's going to be for. If it's $10 million, that's what the settlement's going to be for. That only happens, less than 1% of the time, but that's why we're here today, right? It's that less than 1% that keeps us up at night, and we want to do the right thing for our communities. Another thing in Arizona is what we call the tier 3 for state tort caps. There are 3 tiers, 1, 2, and 3. 1 being very favorable, where insurance carriers recognize this and they're able to offer a standardized discount on the premium on the front end. A tier 2 state means, well, they're favorable, but we're going to offer a discount, but not as much as a discount as we do for tier 1. And then tier 3, obviously, that is insurance carriers are not offering a discounted premium for those states. And unfortunately, Arizona is one of those states. I'm going to close with and then open it up for questions. Best practices that we see for our clients of similar size is anywhere from $5 million to $10 million in limit, depending on who you're contracting with. You guys do a lot of work with the universities, so I certainly understand and support up to a $10 million limit. But anything above that, just what I see in the industry best practice, we just don't feel that it's necessary anymore. I understand there was a catastrophic claim before all of our time there years ago, but this is where we are today. So my recommendation to Heather and her team is we decrease down to 16 million this year. And then next year, we come back and ask to step back down to 11 million. I think $11 million in limit is sustainable, and provides enough for an operation that's still able to serve the community and be fiscally responsible.
Any
Questions?
questions?
Yeah, thank you, Josh Mayer with NAU. Thank you for your presentation. I just wondering, you mentioned that the work with the universities would drive a certain rate. Can you expand on that a little further?
Yeah, so what we see is anytime small urban or large rural bus services serve a university community, those universities have obviously a different board of directors, and those board of directors like to get as much contractual coverage as they can. So that's what I meant, that's where we see the $10 million limit. Whereas if you guys didn't serve university and you're just under Arizona state commercial insurance requirements, which the Arizona state commercial insurance requirement is $5 million for any bus that transports passengers, which has a seating capacity of 16 or more, which is also the same requirement on a federal level. That's called the FMCSA. Their requirement is $5 million. So at the end of the day, really, if you guys were just operating for the city there, you're only required to have $5 million. What I meant by the university, where we see other contractual agreements in place, those are the ones that tend to skew the number and require more limit.
Thank you. The question for Sam, you mentioned that you consulted with NAU and the other partners. Was there any concern as to the level as to where we were going when we communicated with our folks?
Not that I'm thinking aware of.
If I can clarify, because I did reach out to Becky, that's who I spoke with. We only talked about the 16 million.
Okay.
The idea of moving to 11 million is something we intend to use the time in this year before we're at renewal in June to ensure that we're having those engaged conversations with each partner agency and get their buy-in on that change.
I have a question. So is it in our IGA with our community partners to have a certain level of coverage, and is that the 16 million or the?
So I'm gonna start, Scott's on the phone as well, because we did review the IGA language. The IGA requires us to carry the amount of coverage as authorized by the board of directors. So changing from our existing 21 down to 16 does not require additional action on the IGA itself.
Just the board direction.
Correct.
And then my other question is, I was a little confused, when, Mr. Thomas was talking about normal standard coverage was 5 million. But we're actually talking about the excessive coverage. So, it seems reasonable to go down to maybe 10 million next year. That's twice as much as we need, right?
Correct.
And we're holding on to the excessive coverage because of this catastrophic event that happened years ago.
Not necessarily, it's just because we've always maintained the $21 million but we knew we could only obtain 16 this coming fiscal year.
And is that a additional over $100,000 cost to have
That's-
even less?
Yeah.
Yes,
And it's still a cost and not required.
correct.
So that's a big bump in our budget. So I'm just trying to reconcile in my head, like, why are we even going for 16 million? I can see where we need time to make sure our community partners are in agreement and we're kind of, now on an extension. But, at the very least, I think a really robust conversation before next renewal. Cause I don't see that we need so much, not 16 million for sure,
Definitely.
10 million maybe.
It kind of seems counterintuitive that we're reducing our coverage and yet our price cost is almost tripling.
Yeah,
That seems,
it's huge.
And I'd like to clarify something also, if I may. Since I've been handling the insurance program for the last 4 to 5 years, I have never been told that we have an excessive amount of claims, and we have never had an excessive or a claim that was an excessive loss or.
But this coverage that we're talking about with Futuristic and Palomar are for excessive, not excessive claims, but in excess of what we need. And at this point, that's another 11 million. Right?
Yeah.
So definitely need to, I think, talk about reducing.
And that was our plan, to come back before the board before we renew next time. We were kind of just hit with this at the last minute. And we knew that's all we could procure was 16 million at the time. So we thought we'd better get that for now, and then look at our loss runs, look at other local agencies and see what everybody else is carrying, and make sure that we would be in line with what everybody else is doing before asking for the 10 or 11 million dollar excess liability coverage.
when would that conversation happen?
In the coming months, we would need to have a decision probably by February, so that when we go to market for our coverage for the next fiscal year, we usually do that in the spring, so we will need confirmation before we go to market, so we know that we're buying the right policy and limits.
Unfortunately, we have to bind this other coverage before our
Okay.
Great American coverage expires in a couple days, again, because we received late notice. But it's gonna be an ongoing process, and generally, we'll probably start conversations this fall and be ready to make the recommendation before July 1st next year.
Can you go back to the slide that shows how much Futuristic and how much? Oh. So it doesn't say how much that 2 million cost us or that 3 million.
Just that is, I believe, the next slide.
It's just lump summing them. Do you have them broke down as to what of the 176 is the 2 million, what of the 176 is the 3 million? That's the question I have.
I do, I just.
Yes, ma'am. The first 2 million layer is $41,102, which would build us, they call that 2x of 11. So that would build us to 13 million. And then the next $3 million layer, which is Palomar, is 135,117. So we call that 3x of 13, and that would build us to the 16 million tower that we have now.
And do we have to be at the 16 million? Like, can we maybe get rid of futuristic and just keep Palomar?
Palomar's expensive.
But it's like 3 million, so it's a little more coverage.
Right. So if the board wishes to provide direction to only bind the 2 million of the excess 5 million that we're talking about specifically, then we can certainly do that. We were trying to gauge, one, how quickly you are asking for you to make this change and feel comfortable with it. And two, how much of a change was palatable by our board of directors. But if your direction is to only bind the 2 million over the 11, we can certainly do that. That would be within budget and what we would normally expect.
And Eddie, those coverages have not been binded already, correct?
That's correct. We have not bound the two options here.
Okay.
So I have one last question for Eddie. So just so we are clear on the impacts of our decision, what would be, that if we just went with the 2 million excess, what would be a scenario where that may not be enough? What would cause that to not be enough coverage to protect the agency? Because usually people sue up to the liability limit, correct?
That's 100% correct. So in my eyes, ma'am, there is no difference between 12, 13, and $16 million, and even $20 million. Because just your previous comment. Now, you're asking a direct question, what scenario? I don't know. It would, if you killed a busload of people and you had 40 catastrophic death claims, just to give you a direct answer to your direct question. But again, the claims settle, they're sued for it and settle for whatever limit you have. So is there a difference between 11, 13, 15, and 16? No.
And to that point too, we don't take the freeway. So I'm just thinking that our risk level is less than a transit bus that goes on the interstate, right? And I apologize, I didn't introduce myself, Lori Matthews.
Nice to meet you, Lori.
Nice to meet you. So yeah.
So, when you're talking about risk, it doesn't matter if it's a freeway or a road, there's a gazillion different scenarios where accidents and incidents happen. And the insurance carriers, their main drivers for how they calculate rate is how many passengers you have a year, how many revenue miles you're operating, and your radius of operations.
Thank you.
I have a question. If we were to take these two excessive coverages for the 176 million or thousand, excuse me, do we have that in budget, or are we gonna be putting ourselves in a financial pinch if we go with the excessive?
We had already planned or budgeted for the Great American policy, which we figured to be about 10 to 15% in excess of what we paid last year. So
We're still looking at about $80,000 more than what's budgeted for the
correct.
insurance.
Correct.
So even if we went with Palomar, which is 130, we're still 50,000 over budget of what we had budgeted.
Yes, that's correct.
Well, I don't know about the rest of the board, but in my recommendation, I think we go with the futuristic, the 2 million excessive coverage. That's within the range of what we paid last year. And when you said we will renegotiate or look for coverage again, when? In the early spring?
So my suggestion would be we agendize this for November discussion. And if needed, we'll come back in January with a recommendation and action item. And then that gives Eddie and Sam direction on how to go to market and what kind of limits we're trying to place. And then we are authorized under the delegation of procurement to place that insurance by the end of the year. But those two dates will align with our budgetary process as well.
Perfect.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, question. Chair, thank you. Adding on to that, I think what I heard earlier is that we would also need to double check with our partners, right? So if I heard this right, the MOU or the IGA or whatever doesn't specify these board's discretion, but my assumption is that out of professional courtesy, we would be reaching out to our partners to discuss what those expectations are, correct?
That is, we always want to know that Mountain Line is acting in a way that's appropriate based on our relationships within the community. And we have really focused on NAU, the city and the county, because we have service agreements with those three agencies. But we would certainly want CCC to sign on, because you're on the master IGA, you are a child we exist.
So if that's the case, we're looking at to November, do we have to vote anything on this item or we'll just put it postpone it until November?
We would like action today to provide direction to bind, to stop trying to find the 21 million. And to bind whether it's the 13 or 16, I think we recommended 16, I've heard discussion that maybe what we actually want is 13.
May I ask a question? So Heather, you're all recommending 16, and it would maybe be helpful to understand the why behind the 16 before we jump to like for
Sure.
a cheaper rate.
So I really feel it's important for what we don't have prepared for you today, and the reason I didn't recommend going lower than a 16, because I've always felt like the board and our partners wanted us to have this high level of coverage. The catastrophic event that we're all referencing was the school bus accident that occurred in this community on a freeway. Just to be really clear, it's not Mountain Line's catastrophic event, it was a community event that drove our insurance. It used to be 30 million. We dropped it to 21 million about 10 years ago when we had a very similar problem with binding insurance. And so really in consideration of not being able to give you a really solid look at our loss runs and to talk about our risk and the way we mitigate those risks, we felt the safest thing to do was get as much as we could, did as close to the 21 million as possible. I would not tell you that I believe as the CEO, we need the 16 million or the 21 million based on our loss history, based on our claims, and based on the risks that we face. And I think the point that Director Matthews made that Eddie confirmed is if we carry 13 or 16 or 21, that sets the limit for what people are going to claim from us. And although I don't have the loss histories for you, I can tell you Mountain Line has faced two major suits of significance, and neither one of those left our primary coverage limit. All of them were within what is required under federal and state law for us to carry as a provider. I still believe it's prudent to carry excess coverage because of the business that we're in, but I don't believe that there's a reason for us to be recommending 16 over 13, other than it was a big change and I was trying to recognize how quickly we were asking for you to adapt to that change.
I go back to the chair's recommendation to just do the 2 over our required. I don't see for 1 year spending an additional $100,000 plus on insurance just to make that change.
So let's you go back one slide. So I want to clarify, the recommendation potentially is that we continue with Travelers and Transit Re as our primary coverage, with Transit Re being our first excess layer, but then only bind for the additional 2 million, not pursuing the additional 3 million. Want to be sure we're all saying the same thing. The Travelers 6 million is what is required by state and federal law.
Not that we wanna do this, but potentially if we wanted, we could just do travelers, right?
We could, I would not make that recommendation.
No, I wouldn't either, I'm just.
Yes.
Having that extra 5 million makes me feel more comfortable about not going after the Palomar extras.
And the Transit Re, we are buying from a cooperative and insurance risk pool that only does transit insurance. And I will be honest with you, it is very inexpensive. And I think part of buying 30 million years ago and even the 21 million a couple years ago was it was financially still reasonable to do. I just think we're entering a place in time where you have to evaluate what are we getting for what we are paying and is it necessary?
And I think we're all feeling the pain of, you know, super high interest coverages or losing coverage.
Yes.
And I think people are everybody's having to scale down just to make it fit within the budget.
Okay, are there any more questions or discussion on this item?
So do I need to make a new recommendation?
So
Or-
what I would say, Chair, is we have a recommendation on the screen. You can either ask for a motion on the recommendation, or you can offer a modified recommendation, or ask another board member to offer a modified recommendation as a motion. That's the way I think it goes. I would look to Stanley and Scott, Cameron and Scott to tell me if I've said that.
Yeah, okay, I'm gonna request a modified motion from our board, so, is there a motion to modify this, let's see, insurance policy excess limit, requirement from 21 million to 13 million for the fiscal year 2026? We have a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Director Sweet and a second by Director Matthews. Any other further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Right, thank you, motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, you should, just for the record, ask if there is any opposed. Is there any opposed?
Are there any members that are opposed to this motion? There are none, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you, Eddie, for joining us and participating.
Okay, so to be clear, do I go ahead and proceed with binding the 2 million layer and then send that information over to Mountain Lion?
Yes.
Correct.
Yep, Sam will follow up with you.
Thank you. Hey, guys, thank you for having me on. I greatly appreciate your time and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next item, paratransit guide and rules of service delivery. Call on Randy Shipping to present the item. Hope I did your last name right.
That's okay, close enough, close enough.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, board members. My name is Randy Sherping. I am the Director of Operations here for Mountain Lion. In June, the June 18th board meeting, we opened a public comment period for changes to our ride guide for paratransit and our rules of service. Those were centered around a pickup window, changing our pickup window from 15 minutes before and 15 minutes after the negotiated pickup time to the negotiated pickup time plus 30 minutes. The second change was changing our advanced window reservation, our reservation window from 14 days to 7 days due to the number of cancellations that we received from people that create trips greater than 8 days in advance. And the third one was for a change for our no-show letter, just changing the language. So instead of saying it is 20% of your trips and our five trips in a calendar month and 20% of your overall trips, to making it and or, because we do have clients that schedule below that threshold, but they are late canceling more than 20% of their trips on a monthly basis. So we sent out a survey to 417 clients. The results of that survey have come back. The slide on the screen may not be updated because I updated this morning, so it may not have the most up-to-date information. So with regards to changing the pickup window, overall, will this change will improve or have a negative impact on your ability to use our service? 74% of clients said that it would improve their service or have little or no impact on their use of our paratransit service. 23% said that it would have a major impact. In conversations with clients, the concern is waiting longer for the van to arrive, since it's going from 15 minutes after to 30 minutes after the negotiated pickup time. So in conversations we had with them, we explained that the changes to the late cancellation and the no-show, as well as the advanced reservation, will increase vehicle availability and is expected to expected to provide reduced wait times as well. That did not sway that 23%. Excuse me. That did not sway that 23%, but they agreed that they thought the change would be significant to the ability for us to have more vehicle availability. For advanced reservations, 94% of respondents said that it would improve or have little or no effect on their ability to use our service. 6% said it would have a major impact. These concerns center around clients needing to adjust their patterns, and instead of calling 2 weeks ahead of time to schedule their trips, to call a week ahead of time. We explained to them the reasoning behind this, those that provided their information. And after discussing it with them, they said that they would set sail on that boat called Cautious Optimism, but that they feel that this would be a good move. For the no-show letters, 91% said that it would improve or have little or no impact on their ability to use our service. 9% said it would have a major impact. Clients were concerned about not being able to travel due to current circumstances beyond their control that resulted in a no-show or a late cancellation, such as if they weren't feeling well that day, they had a unexpected encumbrance come up that they were unable to take their trip. In discussions with the clients, we explained to them if there's a reason they're unable to travel that's beyond their control, they can notify dispatch or customer service, and that trip would be reduced or would be taken off of their no-show list. So they would not, that would invalidate that no-show. If they received a no-show letter, the missed trips that resulted in the issuance of the letter would be listed on the notice. If any of those trips were beyond their control, they could advise customer service and the trip would be removed. If the removal of that trip dropped the no-shows below the threshold for them to receive that notice would be rescinded and disposed of. Based on the results of the survey and the conversations we had with clients, staff is recommending that we move forward with the board move forward adapting the service changes to include the 0 to 30-minute pickup window, the change of the advanced reservations from 14 to 7 days, and the revised language for the no-show letters and late cancellation. I updated everything this morning, so I apologize.
It's fine if you're this.
And does anybody have any questions?
Any questions from the board? All right, if no questions, then can I get a motion to approve this item? We have a motion by Director Matthews. Do I have a second? Second by Director Mayor. Are there any questions? No? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just quick, I want to clarify exactly what the motion is. The item up there says conduct a public hearing and close the public comment period. Is the motion just closing the public comment period? And this may be directed initially to Heather.
Yeah, so we consider what we have done here today, the public hearing, the second public hearing on this item. In the first public hearing, we opened the public comment period, so this closes that comment period and allows us to move forward with making these changes if approved by the board.
So the clarification is you're not only closing the public comment period, but adopting, approving
Correct.
these changes.
Correct, I'm sorry, the recommendation is poorly worded, but yes, we are seeking closure of the public comment period and approval of the changes so that we can make those to the right guide and communicate them to our drivers.
Yeah.
Apologize for that.
Can I get a motion to close the public hearing and to approve the recommended changes to paratransit?
So I'll clarify, yes, I move that we close the public hearing and move forward with the changes recommended.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Matthews. We have a second. We have a second by Director Mayor. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, next item, number 9, impact of change to driver wage. If please have Sam Short come discuss it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Happy to see you again. So again, my name is Sam Short. I'm the Workforce Director for Mountain Line. Today, I'm going to be discussing the impact of the change to the driver's wage. So last June 26th of 2024, the board adopted a $5 an hour flat increase for transit operators and operations supervisors hourly wage. This change took effect on July 1st of 2024. So after having a year under our belts with the new wage in place, I went back and looked at some of our statistical information as far as applicants, how many people we've hired and things of that nature. And I discovered a positive change to what's been occurring over the last year since the change. So I went back and looked at data from January 1st of 2021 to June 30th of 2024, which is before the $5 an hour increase to the transit operator and operations supervisor wage. And during those years, we averaged approximately 64 applicants per year and hired only 25.7% of those 64 applicants. So since the $5 an hour increase, July 1st of 2024 to July 1st of 2025, and again, this is only 1 year of statistics, but we have had 139 applicants and we've hired 40% of those applicants. Also, I went back and looked at training classes held, which tie up a lot of people's time and energy during the previous 4 years. And looking at the information or the data, discovered that during from January 1st of 2021 to June 30th of 2024, previous to the $5 an hour increase, we averaged 9 classes a year, and each one of those classes averaged only 4 trainees or transit operators. Since the $5 an hour increase, we've had 7 classes, and actually, if you counted the last 2 months of this fiscal year, we've had 9 classes. And we're averaging 6 trainees in each one of those classes. So it is going up according to the information. But again, it's only 1 year sample size. So as of Monday, from May 12th to August 11th, which is still part of our newest training class, we've hired 25 new trans operators or operations supervisors during these last 2 classes. So it is definitely helping. Some of the next steps that we're going to do to continue advancing the way we do things and bringing more quality people into Mountain Line is we're currently looking into an assessment tool to give to all applicants to see if they are a good fit for the transit operator position. Not everybody enjoys driving a commercial vehicle or giving customer service. Sometimes people can be difficult in any customer service job, and not everybody enjoys doing those things. Also, another thing that's we feel is going to help us in the near future is the American Public Transit Agency petitioned and received a waiver from the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration to reduce or get rid of the under the hood element for commercial driver's license testing. So what that means is if you're a transit operator, you do not have to do part of the CDL test that everybody else has to do. Transit operators are never working on their engine. They're never looking under their bus at the wheel wells. They're simply making sure the brakes work and making sure the safety equipment's in the vehicle. So to ask them to memorize every piece of equipment in the bus is one of the stepping stones that they have to achieve to get a commercial driver's license. And it is one of the biggest stumbling blocks for people to get a commercial driver's license because they have to memorize word for word in ADOT language exactly what they're supposed to say. From time to time, those names change and those processes change and we are not always updated to those. So sometimes we will take somebody down to ADOT for a test and now we find out our person failed because the language is different. So now we have to take everybody back and train them to say something differently so they can pass the test. If we are successful and the under the hood requirement is lifted for transit, then that will help us out significantly.
Sam, may I clarify just
Sure.
one more thing? So, on the waiver specifically, so the FMSCA, who does safety and oversight of the CDL testing program, they have waived the under the hood requirement and deferred to the states to determine if they would then also accept that and authorize it. So, and it also is only good to transit drivers who do not operate on an interstate. So that's another really key component. So we have a meeting set up with ADOT Director Toth and her team to talk about the state's willingness to also adopt this waiver. So we're one of two steps into this process, but we're really excited that we at least have the opportunity for the conversation. So I did just want to clarify that point.
Arizona has not adopted that waiver yet, but they've been pretty quick in identifying other changes that other states have made. For example, the commercial driver's license physical, all of the states agreed to change to where the actual CDL physical documentation is sent to the Department of Transportation, the state's Department of Transportation, from the doctor's office themselves. So they're not requiring the applicant or the person getting the physical to take the CDL physical to the Department of Transportation, because there's room for forgeries, manipulation, things of that nature. So Arizona was quick to adopt that like everybody else. So we're hoping that they will also be quick to adopt the under the hood waiver.
If you're done.
Sure.
What, we have vacancies right now for our transit drivers?
We do. I'm not sure. We have 3 different pools of drivers right now. We have part-time plus, part-time minus, and full-time. We're currently trying to move some of these 25 that we've gotten in the last 3 months over to full-time. I can tell you that last year we were struggling and actually had to reduce service. This year we have implemented full service and we have not had an issue as of yet.
And that leads me to my other question, on the training, the classes, is that set based on you've got openings and now you've got X number of applicants, so you're gonna hold a, classes for that? Is that how you schedule it, or is it just every quarter, or?
We generally do it when we have enough applicants, which we've had plenty of in the last 12 to 14 months. So yeah, just when we get enough applicants, and it's always faster than we would like, truthfully. So, going back to your other question on the CDL course earlier today, it has helped tremendously for us to not have to go find a place to practice backing and parallel parking and things of that nature. We can just go right over on our days. We use the course and we're done. It's really been a tremendous help. So, all right. Any more questions? Yes, sir.
You just mentioned part-time plus, part-time minus. What does that mean exactly?
That means if you're part-time minus, you have to work 19.99 hours or less. You do not get benefits. If you're part-time plus, you work 29 hours or less. And if you're full-time, you work 30 hours or more.
Thank you for that.
Both the part-time plus and full-time do have benefits.
So to clarify, the reason we have those 2 categories in our part-time is ASRS requires us to enroll at 20 hours. And so we allow someone to say they don't want to work more than the 20 hours. We avoid enrolling them in ASRS, but then they self-schedule. So they're the folks that say, hey, you have open shifts, I'll take one. They generally have employment somewhere else. The part-time plus are people that don't want to go full-time, but we do offer them full benefits. So they are enrolled in ASRS and earning that, but we also give them health, dental, vision, life, just like we do our 40-hour employees. We do limit them from going over 30 because that's a federal definition of full-time work.
there any other questions at this time?
All right, thank you.
You?
No, I can tell.
Our annual safety report, and guess what? Back all year.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Again, I am Sam Short. I'm the Workforce Director for Mountain Line, and I will next be discussing our annual safety report. So every year, as part of Mountain Line's commitment to safety and regulatory compliance, staff compiles an annual safety report, which I will now update you on. The board may provide direction, but there is no recommendation from staff at this time. So last year in fiscal year 2025, Mountain Line had 80 vehicle collisions. So during our insurance discussion, I wanted to make sure that I talked about our claims or loss runs, because when you see 80 vehicle collisions, you're like, no wonder they're having a hard time getting insurance, right? So to clarify, any contact with anything is a vehicle collision for us. 99.9% of all of our accidents are somebody tapped their curbside or driver's side mirror on a sign as they drove by, or a construction barrier, or things of that nature. Almost all of them are of similar nature. So just to clarify, when you see the number 80, that's what they all are. We very rarely have a serious accident or one that's reportable to the National Transit. So again, last year we did have 80 vehicle collisions, which equates to one collision every 13,659 miles. 36 of those 80 accidents were preventable. Preventable means that they did not do everything they could to avoid that accident, up to and including just stopping. 44 of the 80 accidents were classified as non-preventable, which means there was nothing they could do to prevent that accident, or generally in most cases, it's where somebody ran into us. And again, the 36 preventable accidents, that was an accident or preventable accident every 30,355 miles. And the 44 non-preventable accidents, one of those occurred every 24,836. So again, 79 of the 80 were considered minor and did not meet the reporting thresholds per the National Transit Database. Also, every year we report our near misses. Last year, we had 9 near misses. A near miss is simply somebody almost ran into us, or it could be we almost ran into them, either way. But the accident or collision was avoided, and we ask that our driver report those near misses so we can look into trends and things of that nature, or problem intersections, problem turn lanes, things of that nature. So we look at these near misses to make sure that there's not anything we could do to avoid these near misses in the future. Again, last year we had 9 near misses. Also, last year Mountain Line had 9 workplace injuries. All of those injuries were minor and did not represent a significant loss of time away from work or significant amount of claim. Some of the things we're doing in the upcoming fiscal year to better our safety record, lower collisions, lower workers' injuries, and lower near misses is, as I talked about earlier, is an applicant assessment tool. Cody Weaver, the HR manager, recently discovered a assessment tool that our brother agency in Montana uses. So we are looking into that and are more than likely going to recommend that to the GM team to use as an assessment tool for anyone we hire to be a transit operator or transit supervisor. Also, we are getting a bus simulator. It was actually delivered yesterday to our Caspar property, and they are currently over there as we speak, setting our bus simulator up. So that's very exciting, and everyone's really jazzed about getting their turn on the bus simulator. Also, going to hire a safety coordinator. That title could possibly change, but they are going to be a safety person of some type. And Mainly, their job is going to be proactively assessing safety and making our place a safer place to work. So again, the board may provide direction, but there is no recommendation staff at this time. Are there any questions?
Questions? Yes.
How much is significant? You said significant time off. There was no significant time off or so is that more than 1 day or more than an hour?
Generally more than a couple days.
And what did the bus simulator cost? And can we go play on it?
Yes, you absolutely can. I believe
Environment. Can't hit anyone.
the bus simulator was, I believe, $650,000,
Wow.
which we received through a grant, correct?
We paid for that with the savings from the CDL course. So we had a congressionally directed spending from Senator Kelly's office for addressing training in this community. We built the CDL course with it, and the remainder went into buying the simulator. The simulator is all built on our vehicle, our operating environment, but anyone can use it for doing things like how safely do I drive, what are preventable accidents and other things. So it is, I wish I kept the photo, I'm sorry I don't have it, but it's very interesting that the way it is set up, when you sit down in the chair, there are screens 360, and it feels like you are in a vehicle and you never move.
So, you know, and I used to just how they do it in the city.
Yes,
So that, it was under a grant, so that didn't come to let us know as a board,
It was
that
in-
this purchase or.
it was in our budget. And it was probably in the delegation of authority report at the time that we awarded. It's been in process for over a year now.
Year and a half, yeah.
Yeah.
And we did give a couple updates, if I remember correctly, along the way.
Yeah.
Any other, oh, yes.
Hi, yeah, this is Jeff from NAU. How are you? I would love to learn more and talk about that, how maybe NAU could, you know, take part in that simulator and maybe get some mileage per se with that as well.
Absolutely. Give me a call anytime.
Long cost.
All right.
We have a team coming out at the end of September to film scenarios in our buses or vans to put into the simulator. So all of the drivers will actually see real people doing real things or things that they might see once they get out on their own inside the simulator. So the person that's being obnoxious or refusing to do whatever it is. So we do have a team coming out to film scenarios within the next 5 weeks.
And we can simulate a slide for snow and icy conditions. Drivers can experience that without having a $1.5 million vehicle actually sliding through a very long. So,
Recommend.
Sam, thanks for the presentation. I think all in all, a great safety record and all that, so I don't mean to focus on the negative at all, but with the one that required FTA reporting, what's the threshold or what are the circumstances that requires reporting to the FTA?
If there's a fatality, which we have not had, if somebody is treated immediately away from the scene, keywords are immediately and away from the scene, then we have to report it. That also induces drug testing on the driver. And then if one or both vehicles are towed because it mechanically cannot operate and leave.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? In that case, thank you very much. Next up, annual fleet report. If Jeremiah McVicker could come up and please present.
Thank you, Chair and members of the board. My name is Jeremiah McVicker, and I'm the superintendent here. And I'll be giving you a quick update over last year and how we did with our fuel and miles. There's no the board may provide direction, but there is no recommendation. So, little update from 24 to 25, we were short one fleet staff member. And it did make us have to heavily focus on preventive maintenance and making sure our scheduling were kept up to date. Earlier this year, we actually filled that position, so we are fully staffed moving forward. My team is responsible for maintaining all the vehicles at Mountain Line. So this is the preventive maintenance, the repairs. And then we do contract our janitorials. So we have our standard fleet, which you guys are all aware of. We've talked about every year, but I just like to throw it up here just to, as a reminder. So now getting into the details. So from last year to this year, we actually added about 40,000 miles. And that was because at the end of last fiscal year, we were actually on reduced service and we went to full service. And so this also made us increase to the few extra miles, which in turn required more fuel. This is a critical data for fleet as we use these points to dictate how our fleet's doing. So with our ICE engines or internal combustion, diesel, gasoline, with MPGs, as you all know, with your cars, the higher the number, the better. But with our electric vehicles, the lower the number. So we're comparing energy to miles versus miles to energy. So our electric buses are still phenomenal. We're still getting great miles, and that's all due to our transit operators. They're doing a phenomenal job of using the 1 foot driving, letting that bus use the natural retarder to recharge that battery, which in turn lets it get more miles while it's on the road. And we actually had our battery electric buses out a little bit more this last year. So we got better data, including over the winter months. Please stop me if you have any questions. So our fleet is aging. We have an older fleet, but this is Mountain Line's intent. We want to be stewards. We want to keep our buses for as long as we possibly can, as long as it makes fiscal responsibility, right? So if the bus is performing well, we're going to keep it. Our TAM plan says our useful life is 12 years. As you can see, our average fleet is getting right up there to that 12-year mark, but we also use the cost per mile. That's maintenance mile. That doesn't include tires or fuel. That's just mechanics time and parts. So our average is 29 cents per maintenance mile. Our lowest is 6, which is the electric buses. They're still doing phenomenal. And then our highest is the 41, which is that oldest vehicle at 17 years. So we do have an order in. Our paratransit, the average life is 8 years, or not average life. The TM plan is 8 years replacement, but we also use the maintenance miles to make sure that we are being good stewards. You can see our fleet is about 9 years old, and fuel mileage is at 4.2, and the average maintenance mileage is 11 cents. And that's big pertaining to, well, it's a smaller vehicle, parts cost less. Anybody have any questions?
So just so I do. Because of, we did have some more electric buses down the pipe, but because of federal changes, we changed those to hybrids. So we won't be increasing our electric buses, but we will be increasing our hybrid buses for the fleet. Correct.
Not this order, but we still plan to follow our ZEB plan in the future. So the next order, we had 2 orders that we could have placed. We opted to step back on the next 2 buses, wait, get temperature before we reordered. And then the 4 buses, which are on order, are the ones we switched to the hybrids to make sure that the readiness of our fleet continues.
Just one more clarification, what is our replacement schedule? We're close to that kind of where we like to replace them. We've got 4 buses coming in. Are we on schedule? Because it takes a year to get a bus, if not longer. So how are we on that timing, and when How many more do we need to stay on schedule?
The good news is because we want to be stewards, we reevaluate every year. So every year we pull out all the data, we look at it, cost per mile. So we don't really like to focus on the years because that's not fair. If I got a bus that's 17 years old and it's still performing well, why would I get rid of it when I have a 12-year-old bus that's costing us a lot more time? So we, every year, look at our whole fleet and we reevaluate. So maybe last year I said we needed 2 buses and this year it's still 2 buses because that's what the data shows us. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
So the 2 that we pushed back, the electric ones, and we're waiting to order to see, when does that come back to the board to discuss?
Let Heather take this because I'm not sure the exact date we're coming back yet.
We would like to place that order in June. So this will probably be a spring discussion. We are visiting DC in October. We've been waiting for some reauthorization announcements to come forward so that we can give you a recommendation on our best temperature take of the political will in DC. I know there are still transit systems moving from electric back to hybrids. As we speak right now, it's happening every single day. I think our manufacturer just told us they had something like 800 buses that moved from the electric line to the hybrid line in the last 6 months. So now they're seeing super long delays in getting the hybrid buses out and delivered because of that change. So we're just trying to pay close attention. We will come back for an opportunity for a discussion leading up to the idea that we would order by end of June at the latest. And then knowing that that's 2 years delivery time.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you for the presentation. Let's see, next up is annual update on the bus stop rehabilitation program and Mr. Jeremiah, all yours.
Ready. So talk about the annual bus improvement that we do every year. The board may provide direction, but there's no recommendations this time. A little recap, our budget is 165 a year. Last year we spent 115, we came under as we focused on repairing some horizontal surfaces over the shelters. Yet again, like our buses, we like to evaluate them yearly and make sure we're not just replacing because the time is expired. Shelters, it's about 8 years.
Question, so if it was budgeted at 165 and we only spent 115, is that money, does that money carry over or is it just 165, use it or lose it each year?
It's typically 165, use it or lose it for a week.
But when we say use it or lose it, it
It's-
goes back into the fund balance for the transit tax. So it just, we can handle it as a carryover request with the city so that it moves from one budget year to the next. Generally, we budget fresh on our bus stop rehab program every year. So by the time we know we're gonna not spend it all, we're so far into the budget process and we know what we need in the next year. We don't try and carry it over. We just let it go back into the fund balance to be for future services.
Unless otherwise written out. So this year, we only did 2 rehabs. So we did 1 shelter, the university. ADOT and city moved that stop for us and built us a nice new pad. And that shelter was slotted to be replaced just before that project. So we waited, held off, and once that project was complete, we installed a brand new shelter. And then the other one was the standard, which was a concrete horizontal work that we had repaired. So this is that actual stop at Target being installed by our contractor. So for next year, we have 5 shelters that we're aiming to rehab at this current time. And that's the ones on the board here. Yet again, towards the end of the year, this calendar year, we'll go out and reevaluate because winters can be hard for shelters. Do you have any questions?
Any questions at this time?
Great.
Thank you. Right, next up is the FUSD update, Busy Collins, please.
Yes, thank you, Director and board members. Next slide, please, Rhonda. The EcoPass program with FUSD continues to see tremendous growth, as you can see on the chart here. The first data points on the left are from fall semester 2023, before the EcoPass with FUSD was established. And then the right 3 points are the 3 semesters since implementation. And then the furthest right is the current semester that we're in. And so just projecting some possible passes used. We're just seeing a lot of passes being distributed and a lot of trips taken. So that number hopefully will just grow right off the chart. Mountain Line staff spent the second half of July attending middle and high school back to school events to familiarize families with transit, answer questions, and assist with trip planning. And as a reminder, FUSD purchases bus passes through Mountain Line's EcoPass program, and Mountain Line charged FUSD $20.50 per pass for a total invoice of $41,000 for this school year, FY26. Next slide, please, Rhonda. And FUSD students accounted for 5% of all boardings across the Mountain Line system last year, FY25, and staff anticipate a larger chunk in FY26 and beyond as a generation of bus riders are developed. Shown here are the top bus stops and routes that students used in FY25 last year. And this data drives key projects like MetroPlan's Safe Routes to School projects and Mountain Line's bus stop improvement program to integrate safety features and support increased ridership. This information also informs Mountain Line's upcoming operational assessment to ensure student travel patterns are supported. The FUSD EcoPasses will continue to be distributed and remain active through June 30th, 2026, so students can continue to ride all year long. And staff will bring another FUSD update in the new year. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Director Matthews.
Dizzy, this is Director Matthews. Going back to how much we charge on the EcoPass, that was $20?
$20.50. And that's part of our EcoPass program. I know Jackie can speak very fluently to this. There is some more information in the board report in the financial information section. And I'd be happy, if you have additional questions on that.
So is that for a year?
It is 1 year, correct?
And is that what we charge just somebody off the street, or is that a special pricing for?
That's a special price. The annual youth bus pass is $119 per the ride guide. And so, yes, this EcoPass program is a really great incentive to have organizations such as FUSD, but also NAU, City of Flagstaff, Coconino County, et cetera. All of the employees are covered there. So the more employees that you have, the less per pass cost is charged. So for example, FUSD is in the top bracket for participants, and they're with NAU. NAU has over 3,000 participants. Way to go, NAU! But FUSD is already over 2,000 participants. They're a strong partner in this.
So do we calculate the EcoPass price and it covers our expenses, or does that not be factored in, or?
I know Jackie can speak more to the EcoPass as necessary, and I know we will be reviewing our past programs as part of that operational assessment that I spoke to earlier. But I don't know if Jackie wants to speak to that.
Yeah. So if I can offer, the EcoPass program is designed as a bulk rate. So when the City of Flagstaff tells us they have 2,000 employees, they have to buy 2,000 passes. They don't get to buy them only for the 25 people who are going to use them at that rate. They have to buy all 2,000. So they're priced based on the knowledge that not everybody within any group will 100% use their pass. And then what we're doing every year is we're looking at what's the break-even point. Is an employer breaking even, meaning the number of trips taken on those pass systems versus the fare that they paid? Is it the same as if they were paying cash or buying a monthly pass? Is it more or is it less? So that's the way the program is designed. We allowed FUSD to participate in that program that already existed. We didn't set up a new program for them. as he did allude to, we're doing an operational assessment. It's the thing we do between 5-year plans to kind of, look at what we're doing and how we do it. We've tossed the EcoPass program in there because that EcoPass structure has not been evaluated in over 10 years.
Okay, are there any other questions? All right, thank you. Guess we don't have to vote on anything, correct? All right, thank you. Next up, progress reports. Are there any questions about any of the progress reports, or any board members wish to add any of these topics to a future agenda? I'll just throw some out there just to get it on City of Flagstaff's schedule, kind of plant a seed. The Our Lady of Guadalupe 100-year celebration will be on May 16th, and so they will be coming to the city to request the 15th and the 16th to close the street in front of Our Lady of Guadalupe Church in order to have a community celebration there on the 16th. I've already talked with our CEO Heather about Mountain Line adjusting the routes, but that's contingent on the City of Flagstaff actually closing the roads. So I just want to put that out there, get that on record, and get it to our city council members so that we can start moving forward to make sure that on May 16th we have that street closed. Thank you. So, are there any other questions or comments or discussion? No. Yes, I pass it on to you.
So I'd like to recommend that we not do current events, but go right into the executive session items. I really want the board to have time for those 2 session items today. And if needed, I'll write the current events report and send it to you in an email. They are things that I love to share with you, and I really like to tell about our team and what we're working on. They feel like the next 40 minutes would be more wisely spent on those executive session items.
Okay, so in that case, can I have a motion to go into executive session? So moved. We have a motion by Director Williams. Do we have a second? Second by Director Matthews. Is there any discussion? Okay, in that case, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. We are going into executive session. Why don't we go ahead and take a few minutes for a loud break and adjust if they're okay.
For our liaison reports, if you could. Then I things to share.
Yes, so what I have scheduled, please confirm if this works for you, is generally I'm trying to do it in the 2 days following a board meeting. So that you get out on Friday before, I was doing that really well for a while and then schedules got wonky, but I'm recommitting, so you should have that by the end of the week. Yeah. Yes, it's right outside the door. If you take an immediate left, that hallway will take you past restrooms. You can also go to the second one. You know, wait, there's 6 restrooms down that long hall.
So I need to put that on me. Click that.
Yes.
Hey Heather, Rhonda's room is muted. We can't hear what just happened, sorry.
Can do it again?
Sure. So it is 12:24 and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh, yeah.
In about 20 minutes.
I will.
Yeah.